and Nosh has joined us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 25 of Wellbeing Wednesday. We have been going for 25 weeks straight, or actually 26 weeks, because we had a bit of a review week in there at week 16, I think. So this is episode, it is 25. And really fabulous to have a great group of people on board. We've got some of our frequent flyers who have been loyal, tuning in each week, and we've got some new people as well. Yes, welcome to you. And we started this, Louise and I, at the beginning of lockdown because we thought that it would be very valuable to provide people with a space to come together and really focus on their well-being. And we also thought that it would be terrific to access the wisdom of women around Australia, and a lot of whom live remotely. And we thought, that's their life all the time, is this remote living. And they're used to isolation, and I'm sure that there's a lot that we can learn. So we've sort of interviewed some city-ish people, but also people from WA and Queensland and the Northern Territory. So we've had a great lot of women that we've got wisdom from. And today we welcome Lisa Jolly, naturopath.
Hi.
And we are just so thrilled we haven't had a naturopath on before. So we're just going to be really excited to hear what you've got to share with us today, Lisa. And I'm going to hand over to Louise, who is in the driver's seat today. Thanks, Louise.
And it's Women's Health Week this week, isn't it?
It is.
So, and you no doubt would know that, Lisa. So it's great to be doing an activity where we are bringing a group of women together, plus Nosh, who has joined us. And I think he missed last week. You might need to correct me, Nosh. We were missing our male representative. But welcome, Lisa. Thank you for saying.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I was reflecting this morning out on my walk, and I have collided with Lisa on 3 occasions. And the first occasion would be, 16 years ago when...
Roundabout, yep.
Yeah, Lisa and I were in the same mother's group. So with our little baby newborn boys came together. And then a few years later, we collided at Mary Anderson's home. And she was our team leader of Thermomix. We were consultants for Thermomix there for a while. And then a few years later, you were my naturopath.
Yes.
And that was in Mount Eliza. And then you left us.
I'm very sorry about that.
And in the meantime, Cynthia collided with Lisa on my recommendation to check her out. She's a great naturopath. Do we need to say anything, Cynthia, about dashboard or any of the rules? You might just want to mention.
Yes, thanks. Just for any newcomers, if you're a newcomer, welcome. We would love you through the session. A part of the beauty of Wellbeing Wednesday is that this is a community. So if you have comments to share, knowledge that you've got that would benefit other participants, please write that in the chat box. And we will also encourage you to ask questions throughout as well. So we usually try to acknowledge as many questions as we can. And if you also have just a private question you only want Lisa, Louise and I to see, then you can send that to us directly in the Q&A box. But this is very much a crowdsourcing community. So any wisdom that you've got to share that's of relevance for today, we would love you to do that in the chat box.
And it is recorded and will be on Cynthia's website. We don't keep the chat room there, so I feel that you can use that chat room as a code of silence if you want to share information. And I'd like to think that we're a really open-minded group and a private group as well. It's been a great space to share. So Lisa, so many things I would want to ask you, and our focus is well-being, but I actually want to know about this well-being retreat you've got on Saturday. What would we feel or do?
Yeah, so obviously this year has been a very unusual year, and for the past 3 years I've run health retreats. It's something that I'd always wanted to do, and I finally, when I moved to Queensland around 3.5 years ago, decided it was time to run some health retreats. So I created these health retreats after seeing a need for women and to need to take some time out of their everyday lives and find a space where they could come back to a calmer state of being and living, and come back to their heart center, which I think, as all of us I'm sure can relate to, life is very busy and we're often juggling a lot of things. And so I created these health retreats as a space for women to be able to come, rebalance, become educated about looking after themselves, and be in an environment where they could be nourished. This year was a very unusual year, and the majority of my participants for my retreats come from Melbourne. So a few months ago, I realised this retreat wasn't going to be happening in September this year. I usually run it at UKI in northern New South Wales. And so I started, after initially being a bit deflated about the reality of the situation, I decided, why not take it online? So I've tried to create a space so that's running this Saturday, of as close to our actual retreat as possible. So it incorporates a welcome circle for all participants. I've then got, I'm presenting on the topic of the nervous system and how to nourish our nervous system through the use of nutrients, herbal medicine, and holistic activities. Where then I actually have the caterer from the retreat sharing one of her amazing recipes, and everyone has received the recipe prior so they can get the ingredients, and we're going to be cooking with the caterer for our lunch break, so we all get to have a meal together. And then we move on to do a meditation workshop with Nanette Abbott, who is an amazing intuitive kinesiologist. So she's taking us through a workshop there. And then it finishes with a herbal tea making workshop. So I've sent all participants a range of different therapeutic herbal teas. So I'll be taking participants through a basic understanding of herbal medicine and the therapeutic applications of each of those herbs. And then each person gets to make a blend based on their needs. So it's a very nourishing day. Tried to create as much, as close to the real event as possible, really. So it's a day of nourishment, connection, community, rebalancing, and healing. Really, that's the intention.
So if I'm drinking pure peppermint tea, I know it's commercial, it's Twinings. What should that be doing for me?
Peppermint can have a few different actions on the body. One specific action is a spasmolytic. So what that means, any spasming of muscles and tension, peppermint can help with that.
Oh, relax it.
Relax, exactly. So peppermint is well known as a calming tea for the gut because of that action. So it stops, obviously the digestive system has a lot of muscular contraction going on. Sometimes that can be a problem for people if there's too much tension there. So it's calming for the gut. It also has an effect, like an anti-nausea effect. So all in all, peppermint's good for digestion and can be a little bit uplifting as well. I actually use a lot of peppermint oil, essential oil, when I need to wake my senses up a little bit, if I need to concentrate. That's one of my favorite essential oils for that reason.
Yeah, there seems to be an increase in the uptake of using essential oils. So you're finding that, or do you prescribe that?
Absolutely. I think they've become very popular of late. I think there's some big multi-level marketing companies spruiking essential oils, and I love essential oils. They've been around for a long time. I've got my favorites that I use for different purposes, but with the kids, I'll often put some essential oils in the bath at night to help calm the little systems down before they go off to bed. Peppermint and lavender are great for headaches. I try and minimize the use of pharmaceuticals in my life, so having options like essential oils and herbs are really beneficial for everyday ailments. So yeah, I love essential oils. I think like anything, they need to be used safely and in safe dosage ranges, and I'm not an advocate of taking them internally. Like I know some people talk about that, but I'm all about topical use and within the infuser and rolling them on. So yeah, topical and infusion is how I recommend them. Yeah.
So when did you, what happened in your life to want to become a naturopath?
Oh, that's a big question. Because I guess that there's a few series of events that led me to become a naturopath, but the first one would have to be, I think, a frustration that came out of when my nana got sick when I was a teenager, and she actually developed pancreatic cancer, and the doctors basically said, there's nothing we can do. And I've always been quite strong-willed, I guess, and passionate, and I thought there must be something else. There must be other options out there. So there was something born there where I think I wanted to start to look for other options. And then down the track, I became even more determined to look into that path when my sister developed an autoimmune disease called lupus. And a similar situation arose with the medical profession, where we were told there weren't any treatment options other than steroids to reduce inflammation, which unfortunately carry a lot of damaging side effects. And this really drove me to finally start studying naturopathy. And my sister's health was a big driver for me in wanting to understand what other options were available in any field, and that took me to natural medicine and naturopathy specifically. And I think it's just so empowering to know that we have options available to us for different ailments, rather than just always needing to take pharmaceuticals. And there's so much we can do in regards to preventative health as well. So yeah, it's what got me to become a naturopath, really. Finally bite the bullet and study for 8 years part-time. It was a big degree.
Absolutely. So have you been a fully fledged naturopath for 10 years?
It's around about 10 years exactly now. Yeah.
So in those 10 years, what's been, I don't know, what's given you the impetus to keep going? Have there been some great results or cases or relationships?
Absolutely. What keeps me going is seeing people get well. And it's not an easy profession. It's not a profession where, say, you finish your degree and you walk into lots of employment opportunities. There isn't, we're not part of the mainstream system. So that's something I probably wasn't prepared for. But so there's a lot of, I guess, challenges that can present themselves being a naturopath and being outside of that mainstream model that is accepted by the majority. And so, that can create challenges at times, but what keeps me going is when you have someone come through your door who's got certain ailments going on and they're not in a good way, they're struggling. When we don't have health, life is a challenge. And when I use certain testing processes in clinic and create treatment plans based on their presentation and the test results that I see. And when I implement that treatment plan and they come back through my door 3 to 6 weeks later and they say they're feeling so much better, that's what keeps me going. So, you know, I could give lots of examples. People always say, oh, well, what do you treat? What do you treat? And I'm like, well, I am a bit of a generalist in that I treat a lot of different things. And I think, okay, well, what have I seen this week in clinic, or what have I seen recently? And I think I had someone come to me with severe back pain. He was on really high dose anti-inflammatory and pain medications, and he didn't want to be on them anymore. He didn't want to be on them long term. And so he said, is there anything you can do? And I took a thorough case history, did some testing with him, created a treatment plan, and he's had a lot of surgery. So I thought this could be a long road to get some progress for him. But it's been, I think, 6 weeks and he's off all pain medications. He just has such a different persona, and he's feeling really positive. And that's, you know, that's so uplifting and keeps me going when people come back feeling that way. So yeah, that's a really positive case. And lots of kids I've worked with, they might come in with all sorts of skin conditions that they're struggling with, and they've been to the doctor who's, you know, they've tried some steroid cream or something similar and they're not getting results they'd like. And then I'll look at the person holistically, and I'll look at their diet. I'll look at from a nutrient perspective, from a foods that are going in perspective, and many other factors, and make some changes and recommendations. And you know, their skin might start clearing up, their behavior might start improving, and that affects the whole family. So that's really uplifting as well.
And that's what I was about to ask. So how have you, how's that affected your family? So you're uplifting, you're helping your clients, and I'm assuming you're doing what you're preaching. So how are your, because it's the 3 boys?
Two boys and a girl I've got.
Oh, yep. Yeah, and hubby.
Yeah, so, and hubby, and hubby. Yeah.
How do you influence them with your practice and beliefs?
Oh, it can be challenging, I'll be honest. I've decided that my role in life is to provide strong foundations for my children and live through example. And I have 2 teenagers at the moment who are going through a phase of thinking that a lot of what I've told them and justified through the dietary choices we make as they've been growing up, they're going through a stage where they think that I don't know anything. That's what teenagers basically think. So I'm just accepting that at the moment, that's where they're at. But I have noticed whenever any of them are not feeling 100%, they do ask for, Mum, can you please make me up some herbs? You know, I don't want to eat that, whether it be gluten or something like that. I don't want to eat that at the moment because it's going to make me feel sick. So I have noticed that all these years that I've been educating them, I guess, it's there. I can see that it's there, and I hope that as they become young adults, they'll take that on for themselves rather than me just telling them what to do. But yeah, it can be challenging.
So what do you, in a day in your life, what are your practices that I assume involve food, but to practice and live your well-being? What's your recipe?
Finding some time for myself is absolutely essential. So putting myself in a positive mindset and taking action steps to create that is the only way I can keep functioning. So I generally start my day before everyone else in the family, and I either go for a sunrise walk. I like to see the sunrise. It is also good for our hormone production of melatonin towards the end of the day. So seeing that early sunrise will often help us sleep better at night. Then I often start the day with a glass of lemon in water, or at least a glass of water. So I've started the hydration for the day, because it's so easy to not get enough water into our bodies when we're busy. So if we can start that early on, we've got better chance of getting enough throughout the day.
That's enough. If I've got one of these.
Yep. Around 8 glasses a day is what we're aiming for.
8 glasses?
Yeah, 8 of those. So I hope that's not your first for the day, or you've got a few to go. Yeah, look, I try and I think variety is key in food. So I will sort of think about what I've had and what I might not have had during the week, thinking about, I love always having as many vegetables as possible. That's a staple. And then good quality protein, and then thinking about my other minerals like zinc and iron, and getting that through other food sources. So I also like trying to do yoga at least a couple of times a week, and meditation I try and do most nights, just for a short amount of time before bed. So yeah, but a whole foods diet is the staple of my eating habits. But 80-20 rule.
Mm-hmm.
Can I interrupt there, just dig a little bit deeper, Lisa, when you said that about your mindset and setting your mind up for the day? Can you just explain? I mean, I know you said you go on your walk, but how do you deliberately set your mind up for the day?
A couple of ways. I guess the walk gives me space to think clearly and do some little activities. So I do some simple activities like taking a deep breath in and breathing in positive affirmations of, it can just be simply words of, I take in love, light, happiness, joy, freedom, strength, and I release worry, fear, stress. And so my walk allows me to take in some positive words and release anything negative that I feel I may be carrying, so I can start the day in a fresh way. I also like journaling. I have some journal cards, so I sometimes use those in the mornings and write a few, do a few lines depending on my time of to help keep me on track and set the day. I also, not every day, but a few times a week, just try and write 3 gratitudes, 3 things I'm grateful for in my life on that particular day, even if I'm not particularly feeling that way at the time, which, in reality happens. So yeah, those things all help me stay in balance.
Were you going to ask something else, Cynthia? Unmute yourself.
Just had a question from Steph a little bit earlier, and it's a little bit random, but I'll put it in.
Okay, yep.
She was talking about, ironically, one of the challenges living rurally, which you wouldn't think, is getting good quality fruit and veg. So Steph said, I find I've become fairly bland and basic with our food. Are supplements, e.g. vital greens, helpful when you may not have other options? And then Jeanette shared that you can grow things in pots, and there's been a really nice discussion about that. But just coming back to Steph's question, yeah.
I completely understand. I remember I don't live in a remote area now, but I remember when we traveled around Australia and we went to some really remote locations, and that was a challenge for me. And I have to admit, I did rely on frozen vegetables a lot, because they're available at any time. But I love the idea of growing small amounts of things in pots. Herbs are often the easiest things to grow, like parsley. Parsley is pretty easy to grow and is such a nutrient dense herb, high in a lot of minerals, including iron. So even adding herbs to your meals is a great way to boost the mineral content and greens. And so in terms of the vital greens has got a lot in it. It's got the greens, but it's also got a lot of herbs, and other things in there. But yeah, look, I definitely don't mind a bit of a top up with a greens powder. I think it's not a bad option when you haven't got access to fresh. So yeah, I think it's definitely a good option at times.
Lisa, when you were telling us about that activity about the taking in the positive and let out the negative, I always remember you teaching me about the tapping, the EFT.
Yeah,
that's come up previously, Cynthia, hasn't it, in one of our conversations about tapping, and I probably didn't do a very good job of explaining it. I do that every morning when I walk. Can you just give us an example of that for others? Because I think it's a great activity.
Tapping. Yeah, I should have mentioned tapping because I love tapping as well. And I especially find tapping. So tapping is basically, the proper term is emotional freedom technique, EFT. It was developed by Gary Craig. He was a psychologist, I think. And basically it's a method of releasing tension in the body by tapping on different meridian points. And there's significant research around this, that it can reduce stress levels by quite significant percentages. I can't remember off the top of my head, like just 20 or 30% just by doing one round of tapping. So I don't know if many people have been exposed to tapping, but it is a really wonderful tool that anyone can learn. It's not complicated, as Louise would know. And I do still teach that a lot. I often include it in my online programs, like the spring cleanse I ran last year. The first 3 weeks were about, dietary choices for cleansing and supporting organs of elimination. But then the final week was about letting go of toxic emotions. And I taught everyone how to tap so that they would all have a tool to release those things that can sometimes just feel like they're playing over and over in our heads like a broken tape recorder, and can put us in a completely different mindset and change our perception of events. So that is a really powerful tool that I love and have been using for many years, still use it and still teach it to my clients. So yeah, I'm not sure if many people
Jenny's asking where can you find or learn about that? So no doubt you can Google it. But is there anything on, have you got a website, Lisa? Or
Cynthia, did you just put my website up, I think? Yes, she did. There you go. She's one step ahead.
For instinct.
There are various videos online. It is fairly straightforward, but I also agree it is easier sometimes initially having it taught to you, so that you get clear that yes, I am doing it right, and you feel comfortable with it. But it is really a simple tool. It's like, I don't know if anyone's used kinesiology before, but it's a really simple form of kinesiology that you can learn to do on yourself.
Yeah. Now tell me also then, it was all back to that initial statement, seeing the sunrise produces melatonin, which is good for your sleep. So are you setting yourself up for your sleep as soon as you get up?
Yeah, look, I'm a big advocate for working with our natural circadian rhythms, so our innate rhythms, and that means living in harmony with the sun rising and the sun setting. So I'm not sure how much people are aware of, but the blue light from devices that a lot of us are on these days can really mess with our hormones and melatonin levels and affect our ability to sleep at night. And that's why it's becoming more popular now to wear blue blocker glasses, especially if you're using devices at night. But devices aside, just exposing your eyes to that morning sunrise will positively affect your melatonin production at nighttime. So our bodies really are in tune with nature, and if we can learn to work with those energies more, we can live more harmoniously, and our rhythms will work more easily.
So if we fast forward your day then, do you then go to bed when the sun goes down?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say I go to bed when the sun goes down. I'm in Queensland and the sun goes down at about 6 o'clock. So it's a little bit early.
Yeah.
But it's not unusual for me to go to bed around 8:30 and up around 5:30. So there is something magical about the morning, the sunrise, and the energy of the sunrise, and it really is an energy of anything's possible.
Yeah.
So I think it is a great way to start the day.
Yeah, actually, how many are in that? Okay, so Nosh has said he's in the 5 a.m. club.
Oh,
well,
there you go.
let us know through the chat room, Cynthia, to keep an eye on that, because it's interesting, isn't it? I'm a morning person, but I don't want to impose it on everyone else that it's the way to go. But then, you know, I was falling asleep watching something the other night at 7:30 and I went to bed. But I love going to bed. So much so.
So do I.
I've just started reading Thrive. And it's about sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been out for a few years. I thought I had read it, but it's great. It's so essential. So there's a few sunrise. Yeah.
Nosh says, Lisa, that he'd love to come to your wellness day on Saturday, but it might just be for women.
No, it's not just for women. The online retreat isn't. It's anyone. He will be the first male to sign up, but that is fine.
No, Nosh.
He's used to that.
Yeah.
He'll be comfortable then. And I'm running it with Nanette Abbott, who's a kinesiologist, and we both see a lot of male clients. So, yeah, that would be fine. If he's interested, feel free to get in touch if you want to know more information.
Now, who, you got to ask something, Cynthia?
Oh, just there's a few early birds with us.
Yes. Yeah.
And Steph says that having a baby with a 1 month old, she's seeing the sunrise frequently.
Yes, perhaps not by choice. I think, look, I'm an advocate when you're a new mum to get whatever sleep you can. That's a little bit of a crazy time. And when the baby sleeps, you have a sleep. That's my motto.
Now, what's the no-go zone do you think that we should be adhering to for our well-being? What should we do? So one you mentioned before about devices and emitting that blue light, so we're going to have to buy the glasses. What else shouldn't we be doing?
Oh gosh, I can really sound like the fun police sometimes, I think, because a lot of Western habits are not necessarily so good for us. Is there one no? Look, I think different things affect different people, and you know, on such a large scale of what the way we can be affected by something. So there's obvious things that aren't good for us that I think most of us would probably know. I don't know if anyone has any specific questions, but you know, for example, most people like to have a drink of alcohol, and I think, okay, different studies can show different benefits of, say, drinking red wine. You know, there's always mixed reviews about what's good for you. I always say, well, moderation is good, and giving your liver at least a couple of nights alcohol free per week, I would see as the minimum, so that the liver has time to have a break and regenerate and heal, because it has a lot of other work to do, not just process alcohol. So I wouldn't say it's a no, but I think there's ways to do it in a more healthier way for our body. Any other no-nos? I think there's more things that I think people need to do to maintain health, I guess. And I try and focus on that, because in reality, I find when people come into the clinic, and if you say to them, oh, you know, you've got to stop drinking, you've got to stop, might be smoking, you've got to stop eating gluten, or you've got to cut something else out, it can be really overwhelming for people, especially if they've never gone down that path before. So I usually try and bring in more of the good stuff before I am too harsh on taking stuff out. So focus on educating people about getting, you know, a more nutrient dense diet in, more nutrient dense food, sorry, I should say, into their diet, simply increasing water intake, sometimes substituting certain foods. If someone's drinking soft drinks that have a really high sugar content, then, you know, a simple swap there, if people are used to that sweetness and the fizziness, might be moving to a kombucha. That's a great swap that I find I often recommend in clinic. Just switching coffee, if there's too many coffees, going into perhaps some herbal tea that can have actual therapeutic benefits, not just perhaps burdening actions on the body. So a lot of the time I try and just suggest more therapeutic foods and swaps and drinks. So that's where I usually start.
So if we go back a step then, so what is it about our mind that discourages us to want to do the right thing for ourselves? What's the mindset got to do with this? How can we be shifting it?
Look, the mindset's such an interesting thing, isn't it? And I'm sure you both work with that a lot. Yeah, I can see someone said overwhelmed. Knowing what, it does take some effort to eat well. I just had a flashback to seeing someone in a shop last week, and they came in and they said, my daughter can't have gluten, dairy, lentils. You know, she must have been somewhere and been given this advice, and she was saying to the shopkeeper, what can I just buy? And she said, she was a nutritionist, the shopkeeper, so she said, oh, you're going to have to make it yourself. And she was like, oh no, I don't have time. So it's a reality. I think you just need to keep meals as simple as possible, and at the very least throw in some greens alongside everything. So, you know, lettuce, rocket, chop some raw vegetables. If you have that beside even something that isn't fantastic, it's still significantly improving the meal. And, you know, definitely needs to be a bit of planning. You can't expect, you know, to eat well if you haven't shopped and bought a variety of fresh produce for the week. So having a bit of a prep day for the week can be very beneficial. Yeah, a meal plan.
I think that's so important. Oh, what have you popped there, Cynthia? Yeah, a meal plan.
Yeah, that can be really helpful, meal plans. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like anything, isn't it? If you plan for something and have a goal, it's more likely to get somewhere in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've actually, because we're ordering everything in at the moment, being in lockdown Melbourne, I've got this, the green grocer, and it's a bit of a surprise box every week. So mine will come tomorrow night at 5, and you open the box and it's, ooh, cauliflower this week. And that's how I cook. I like to create with what I've got, opposed to I don't look at menus, and I don't look at, I'll always ask the chef what's in season, but I don't like recipes. I like to create, but I don't think I'm normal. Most people need a plan and need to follow something. So,
well, not everyone knows how to cook. It really should be a subject at school, shouldn't it? Well, it is, but not usually. Still now, my children at school, some of the things they're cooking in, you know, at school, I'm not sure I would recommend it as a healthy meal. But I think, yeah, eating in season is really beneficial because food is more affordable. Eating in season, you know, there's a huge range in prices. I went to my local organic shop this week and they had 4 punnets of organic strawberries for $10. Because obviously there's a lot of supply at the moment, and that determines, like you said, even though I'm not getting the box, I'm able to shop. But what is at a reasonable price is guiding me as to what I'm eating at the moment,
Yeah,
which means you're eating seasonally.
Yeah, it's right. And I should ask a great question. You know, what's normal? I just find I'm surrounded by people who need to have a recipe book, need to Google how do you cook ABC. All right. So, yeah, but recipe books will give you 5 ingredients that you don't have in your pantry. And, yeah, I think, you know, it gets back to we're not educated, are we, in how do you, what goes with what and simple.
Yeah.
There's 5 ingredients.
Yeah. Keeping it simple is key. Then it's not as overwhelming then as well. So I keep my meals pretty simple, and I just think it's based around how I can get the most amount of vegetables into my meals. That's pretty much always my fundamental. That just made me laugh. I thought of one of my son's friends came camping with us once, and even when I'm making hamburgers, I'll throw in as much vegetable in there as possible. So I think there was kale, broccoli, carrot, onion, and so the mixture was quite green in the end. And he took a bite into his burger and said, "The burger's green," as if it was moldy. So I had to laugh, and I said, "No, that's okay. It's supposed to be green." So any opportunity I can to get more greens in, I do, and vegetables. So yeah.
What are your top 3 tips, Lisa? What would help us from your point of view? What works for you, and what could we possibly take on board?
Look, I know I mentioned it earlier, but you cannot override getting enough sleep. You need to get good quality sleep. So much healing goes on in our body when we sleep. Detoxification happens. So our cells are clearing out toxins, they're regenerating, our cells are healing. So if you're not getting sleep, all of those key functions are being compromised. So number 1 would be getting enough sleep.
So just on that, so you're saying good quality sleep. What does that mean?
Good quality. I mean, I see a lot of people with sleep issues in clinic who might get to sleep okay, but they wake up at 2 and can't get back to sleep, or waking up several times. So that's not good quality sleep. You know, I mean, it's not unusual to wake during the night, but if you wake and get back to sleep and get around 8 hours, then I'd call that good quality sleep. But if that's not happening the majority of the time, then it's probably not good quality sleep. So waking and feeling well rested, that's always a sign of whether you've had good quality sleep. So that would definitely be my number 1 tip. I think something that a lot of women don't do but need to do would be prioritizing self-care. Pretty much adding self-care to your to-do list. We add so many things to our to-do list, but often leave that one off the list. And we do need to invest in ourselves. We do need to invest time into our well-being. We don't just, wellness is not just a fluke. Like we have to put some time, effort, energy into our well-being. So that would be a tip, prioritizing self-care and putting it on your to-do list. And I think the other thing I'd have to mention would be keeping our body in a state of calm, because this is what I'm talking about at the my presentation topic for our online health retreat on Saturday is the 3 stages of stress and how we can intervene to manage stress. And look, stress is a reality. It's a part of life. It can be motivating. It can have its benefits, but we need to counteract periods of busyness with recovery and downtime, repair time. If we stay in a constant state of stress, chronic sort of stress, then it creates a really inflammatory pattern in our body. It creates a lot of depletion in the body, and it's like it puts our body off its axis, off that state of homeostasis, and then the body's trying to bring it back to homeostasis, but if we're just pushing it under constant chronic stress, it can't come back to its normal axis, and a lot of compensation happens, and that's when a lot of illness and chronic conditions happen. So counteracting stress with activities that are calming and rebuilding and regenerating is essential part of wellness. So learning tools to do that, learning about foods to nourish the nervous system, pretty much incorporating some of those things into life are essential for well-being.
Lisa's top 3 tips.
Yeah.
Are there any questions that we have for Lisa, Cynthia?
Well, is there anything, Lisa, that we haven't covered in today's session that you think it would be good to mention? You haven't mentioned yet?
I've covered quite a few topics actually, which is good.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mention, but I feel like I have to, as a good naturopath, mention, maintaining good gut health is key to overall well-being, not only for our, I sort of talked about the nervous system and stress and mindset, but I think there's over 500 million neurons in the digestive system. So to keep a positive mindset and good mental health, good gut health is imperative. And what does good gut health mean? Feeding our body the right nutrients and creating the environment that feeds all of the good bacteria in the gut. So that would be something that I would have to mention as well, because without good gut health, it's hard to have good overall health. So.
Terrific. And Louise has just said that she's interested about boosting metabolism because she has a dodgy thyroid.
Yeah. Dodgy thyroid, love that. There's no such thing as a dodgy thyroid. There's just, well, yes, there is, as in the thyroid can be malfunctioning. I don't mean it that way, but what I mean is I'm a naturopath, so I delve into what's driving an issue for someone, and thyroid is often put off kilter for several reasons. If we don't have the specific nutrients that we need to convert thyroid hormones to active forms, that can affect our metabolism. Running on adrenal stress can push our thyroid out as well. And accumulation of toxins can also affect our thyroid function, because that area can hold on to toxins, and so that clogs up the metabolic pathways and biochemical pathways. So there's a few things that can stress out our thyroid and stop it working optimally.
And she said, Lisa, Hashimoto's.
So so autoimmune component to that thyroid condition. Any autoimmune conditions, the first thing I recommend is to cut out gluten. There's a strong association with gluten consumption and autoimmune development. So that would be some general information that I could give for thyroid. And gut health is strongly connected with thyroid health too. So hope that helps for a general start.
And we've got another question. What steps can I take to ensure excellent quality of sleep? I sleep a fair bit, but sometimes feel like I could sleep another few hours.
Okay. I think what I mentioned earlier about the devices and not using them late at night, at least not every night. I know sometimes things happen and we're working on something and we've got to get it done. But if you do need to do that, I'd definitely recommend blue blocker glasses. So using, and setting your computer on night mode. managing our stress through the day is probably the most important factor to having a good quality sleep at night, which a lot of us don't really think about how that day went and how, you know, what our cortisol levels were looking like will affect our sleep at the other end of the day. So if you can support yourself during the day with nervous system nutrients, sometimes we need to supplement it if we've got you know, extra things going on, to, you know, have a more steady line of blood sugar and cortisol release, that will help you sleep better at night as well.
What's a nervous system nutrient?
Any nutrients that our body uses that our nerve cells might be made of, or to improve communication within our nervous system. That's what I mean when I'm talking about nervous system nutrients. Some of the key nutrients for the nervous system would be magnesium, found in your leafy green vegetables, your essential fatty acids found in fish and nuts and seeds. Zinc is a really important one. I love getting that through pumpkin seeds. And your B vitamins are really important for your nervous system as well. So when I talk about that, I'm talking about nutrients that the nervous system relies on to function well. Yeah.
We don't really, well, on big assumptions here, but I don't think we eat enough seeds.
Yeah.
Maybe nuts, but we don't. I mean, you mentioned pumpkin seeds.
Yeah.
And I think I saw earlier on, was it Jeanette? Someone gave a recipe and I noticed there was seeds in that.
Nosh.
Nosh, yeah.
Nosh. Yeah.
Yeah, what is that, do you think?
Yeah, look, seeds, if you think about a seed, it has the ability to create new life. Like, it germinates into a whole, well, whatever it's going to be. And so that is packed full of nutrients to allow that process to happen. And that's why I think seeds are such a good source of nutrients. And your pepitas and sunflower seeds are really nice ones for their zinc contents, which a lot of people are generally low in. So I like to sprinkle a bit of seed where I can, even on top of a salad, or, you know, having a bowl of porridge, add the nuts and seeds to make it a more protein rich and mineral rich meal. Yeah.
Do you have to cook the seeds, like toast them or roast them, or just?
It's actually, we can get a little technical with seeds, but it's actually healthier to have them raw, because they also contain a lot of the good fats and they can get quite damaged when we heat them. So having the seeds raw is actually better, but if we want them even healthier for us and more bioavailable, you're better off soaking them overnight. So if you did make a bircher muesli or something like that, you know, your oats and nuts and seeds in, say, some almond milk, soaked it overnight, then they will actually be easier for your body to break down and digest the nutrients.
Okay, right.
That Cynthia sent me a message. Is that to me? Oh, okay. No. Did you? No?
No. So Lisa, we'll put details of your retreat in our newsletter, which will be with people on Friday. So they might, but they can go to your website. We've put your details in, so they can go to your website and check that out. And also, would you be able to find a video that I could share again in the newsletter on tapping?
Yeah, let me see if I can find one for you.
Yeah, that would be terrific. And then we can make sure it's a good quality one.
Yeah, for sure.
And so just want to announce for next week that we have one of our amazing frequent flyers to join us in the hot seat. Not the hot seat, the sharing safe.
The couch.
Yes, the couch. And that is the wonderful and beautiful Lisa Brassington from Victoria. She lives on the near Louise.
Oh,
and
close to where Lisa used to live.
Yeah, so we'll really look forward to welcoming Lisa next week. So please join us again. And a big, huge, enormous thank you to Lisa Jolly today.
Lisa.
Lisa. And, you know, like we say every week, Louise, we've learnt so many more new things today. This session's had a spin that other sessions haven't had yet.
Yeah.
So we get blown away every week by the diversity of our well-being, that there is so much to it, and there's so many different aspects, and we're just loving the fact that every time we connect with a woman to talk about it, there's something different to add to the mix. So we're really hoping that for those people that are tuning in just for today, that you've picked something up that you can take with you, but also for those people who have joined us more regularly, that, you know, you're picking up different ideas for your toolkit, and that you're able to design your own toolkit, because there's not one size fits all.
Absolutely.
For our well-being.
And my three things I took out of that today was sleep, seeds, and so some green stuff in your garden, so you can add it to your
wonderful. Love all of those. Yeah.
Good on you, Louise.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stop the recording now. So tune in next week, 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Zoom. And thank you again, lovely Lisa.
Thanks for having me.
Stay there at the moment.